The following is a paid program. The advice and opinions expressed during the program are solely that of Heiar Insurance, not necessarily WBEV or Good Karma Brands. Welcome in, everybody, to Taking Care of Business today, Senior Solutions with Heiar Insurance. And my guest, as usual, is Matt Heiar. Matt, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Doing very, very well. A little Christmas music bringing us in because we should all hopefully be getting into the Christmas spirit.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if you have enough time to think about Christmas right now. Because open enrollment's still happening for a little longer?
Yes. It actually technically ends tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Yep.
Okay. On a Saturday. Why not?
Yeah. Well, it's just October 15th to December 7th. So, but we do recommend if you do have the late time planning for, your drug plans or advantage plans to get them in very quickly because we are closed at 5 o'clock today.
Oh, boy. So make those phone calls. Matter of fact, if they want to make that phone call, what's the number?
You can give us a call at 920-887-0580.
All right. Make a note of that with my horrible handwriting.
Yeah, but no, you're right. It's been, Christmas hasn't really been on the agenda, so we feel really behind on our household,
Right.
getting everything ready. But I think I'm actually going to get the Christmas lights up this weekend because it's supposed to be beautiful.
It should be very nice out this weekend, absolutely.
And then we got the big Christmas parade in Beaver Dam coming up.
Saturday, yep. 5 o'clock Saturday, downtown Beaver Dam.
I'm excited.
I'm very excited myself. Always a big fan of. I love holiday parades in general.
Mm-hmm.
I think the lights are nice. It just makes a parade a little more interesting, especially at night. So it just kind of kicks things off a little bit. So that's good. So you're talking about lights this weekend. How's your Christmas shopping percentage?
That's what's really hurting. It's like you never know what to get your kids,
right?
And it's I'm so sick of toys that they play with and they end up in, the garage sale bin eventually.
Mm-hmm.
So. They're turning into an age where it's a little bit more unique, where it's hard to decipher what they want, and then what they do want is much more expensive, and it's like, well, now
Right.
you're getting one gift. So yeah, I'm behind. So one of these weekends here, we got to go shopping, which I dread shopping.
I do remember the point in time when my kids went from wanting Barbies and coloring books and art supplies to, okay, now we want a Nintendo Switch, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I want a cell phone. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, that's another one. And of course, in my household, I've got my oldest Jack's birthday is the 4th of December.
One of your kids just had a birthday, right?
Yeah, that was Jack.
Okay.
And then my youngest, Toast, her birthday is the 20th. My wife's is the 22nd, and then we have Christmas. So December, I'm broke. Like, don't ask me. Like, I feel bad. The bell ringers are out there, and I'm like, what do I got? Anything? Can I ring a bell for you? Like, is that possible? So it's it's a tough time of year for everybody, I think. But it's also an important time of year because we know open enrollment's going on. It's time to make some decisions because now you're setting yourself up for next year.
Yes, but it's just with all the chaos, I just have to thank our staff. Our staff they've worked extra hours. They've stayed late. They've worked through lunches. And they've really helped. I mean, we needed a full team effort this year, just with the changes that they did with Medicare. So it was new for us too, and we really got through it, and helped a lot of people, and that's why I would not be here talking right now if we did not have them. So great shout out to them. They worked their butts off, and we were just trying to keep the chaos controlled. So that's why I do not joke when it's controlled chaos. And a lot of our clients saw it when they were coming in, the phone ringing, people running in and out, people walking in. It's just not too common. Like we see that,
Right.
You'll come in the middle of summer and you're the only one there.
Right.
So that's why we were keeping people on the half hour, every half hour. So, we didn't have time to cover other things, but absolutely, schedule an appointment, January, February, March, and we have tons of time. You could call and get one the day of.
Right.
So we were trying to make it, the best way we could, and our system did not fail us. I think we have everything pretty caught up, and I see the light at the end of the tunnel.
And what you guys do this time of year, it's no small task because you are learning about these plans in many cases after the people who get mailers about them do.
Yes.
So you're hearing it in a very small window, and then it's okay, now that we've learned about them, we got to start implementing them. We got to start advising about them. We need to start looking into how they work. and then suddenly that window's closed.
Yeah, and that's why it's so scary. Like tomorrow at midnight, like when I wake up Sunday, I'll be like, is everything
Right.
done? You know, because like you still feel that, and you know, we never file anything away unless they were contacted, agreed, wanted to sign up. So it should be good, but you still have that feeling of like, oh, was there something we missed?
Right.
You know, and we never want that. So if you haven't received anything, you know, or you have questions still, just give us a call at 920-887-0580, because we will be closed tomorrow, which we're typically closed on Saturdays. But
Right.
if I have to come in for something quick, you know, we can. So definitely reach out to us, give us a call, and you know, we can see what we can do, because I got a busy day tomorrow in the afternoon, so it'd have to be in the morning because I have a basketball tournament at Wayland,
Right.
and then right after that we're heading over to the Christmas parade.
There you go.
It's kind of like it's almost like irony. It's the last hurrah. Like we're having
Right.
we're having a festivities, you know, after this fun time.
Right. I mean, I would assume that at some point in time there's a popping of a bottle or two and a little bit of a celebration for getting through everything.
That might have been talked about probably within the first week.
Yeah.
You know, it's but yeah, now just I don't know. Like the Packers lost, and usually you're kind of grumpy, you know. But I am pretty happy today.
I mean, at least it was a really good game.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's, you know, they're saying they're the Super Bowl favorites, and we hung right with them. We played awful in the beginning.
We did. Yeah.
And just it was great to see them turn it around and, you know, stay competitive. And that game was a coin flip. It could have went either way. It was basically the last person that had the ball won the game.
Yeah, and you are absolutely right there. And I think Wade said it best when he was saying that the Lions coaching team, it's really they're playing their bets. They're really edging on let's go on fourth down every time, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's been paying off now. It's not going to pay off forever.
Yeah, I mean, they call Campbell the riverboat gambler.
Yeah.
But he's kind of like, you know, introducing a new vision, you know, of the sport, like, because their third down plays, they're running on third down, which, you know, that's
Right.
you don't do that. But if they're already planning on going for it on fourth down, you know, their mindset's a little different. And is it risky? Yeah. But at the same time, I think they got stopped once. You know, and that
Right.
did hurt them. We got a touchdown, but at the same time, those other times they scored. So, you know, like you could go either way with this, but I like the conservative approach, obviously. But yeah, our defense was getting tired. They were out there a long time, and but yeah, we gotta make more stops. But that's a really good team we went up against. So we always say it's hard to beat a team 3 times.
Right?
We will be seeing them again.
Oh, definitely.
So it's just nice, you know, we know them, so that will be a great game if we see them in the playoffs. So it's exciting, you know, knowing, you know, if it was 40-12, it's like, okay,
Right.
yep.
And if we see them in the playoffs, we know there'll be a chip on our shoulder when we get there.
Yeah, and I just didn't realize we have a new rivalry. You know, growing up, we've never been rivals with the Lions.
No, it's always been Minnesota and the Bears.
Yep.
I mean, those are our two big. And now, sure, let's just bring Detroit into the mix. Why not?
Yeah, I like it, and they are good, and they deserve it. Obviously, they've had some pretty tough years, you know,
Yeah.
through my childhood. So yeah, it's exciting to see, and you know, 'tis the season. You know, we get Christmas coming up. I can't believe what 19 days.
Yeah.
Yikes!
19
All right,
shopping days? Yeah.
I really got to get my Christmas shopping done.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I've got a few people. I got Wade done. I got
Okay.
Wade's gift. I've got a few more to do. You talked about risk and reward, so let's lead that right into talking a little bit about people risking and rewarding. You guys don't just do, obviously, you know, Medicare and all of that. You guys also work with helping people plan for their retirement, plan for what they're going to do when they no longer have to do that 9 to 5, and they can kind of enjoy those latter years in their life. And sometimes it requires taking a little risk and hoping for a little reward.
Yeah,
Let's talk about those services.
well, and so like everyone has different risk tolerances.
Right.
You know, we obviously recommend being conservative in retirement, especially during an income, like when we're distributing the income, because yes, you know, we want to make sure it's there
Right.
for you when you need it. So principal preservation is the hugest thing when it comes to that. But craziest thing, I've had like 2 or 3 calls in the last like 10 days about crypto.
Really?
Yes. So crypto,
I'm so worried about crypto.
I know it's been it's so speculative, and I couldn't explain it. I don't know exactly a lot about it. And yes, I've heard it's been blowing up lately, but still, like I heard one advisor tell me, he's like, hey, you never invest in crypto unless you're willing to lose that amount of money. So that's how much you invest in it. So if you want to lose that $20, you can, and some people it might be 100, but still, like, yikes, that's just scary stuff, and that's not something we would recommend.
Right.
That is just out there. I mean, and it might be great. Like at one point, Bitcoin was $100 a piece.
Right.
Now it's it just hit 100,000, but I think it went back down. But still, so yes, that's a risk reward, big
Right.
time. But at the same time, we're looking for more conservative investments, to try to make sure that, your money is there. Principal preservation is the hugest thing. It's not trying to double your money. It's trying to make sure and get a game plan. And then taxes, throwing taxes into there too. We don't want you raising tax brackets. So we want your accountant on speed dial, verifying everything that's going on, and, just to help the process so everyone's on the same page.
Now, when it comes to being risky, obviously there's a right time for that. If I'm 40 years off from retirement and I'm coming in and talking to you, trying to get an early start on this, which is a viable option, I can feel a little bit more bold. I can feel a little more risky at that time and say, yeah, let's look into those, stocks, funds, mutual, whatever that we need to do that has a higher risk on the end, because I'll have time to make it up if it doesn't go well.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I come in 3 years from retirement, I probably not want to.
Yeah, and that's why it's so unique and why every plan's different, because everyone has different risk tolerance. I've met 35-year-olds that are like very conservative, almost as if they're 65.
Right.
And I can't say they're wrong. So like what they might be missing out on gains, they're helping themselves for if there's, corrections in the market where they're not going to feel it as much. So I can't say that's wrong either. That's why, being a fiduciary, you have to make sure that you are doing the appropriate investments for people, and everyone is different. So there isn't a right answer, or what your neighbor did does not mean what you should do. And we have to justify that to the regulators of why we're doing this.
Right. So if I come to you, and we'll just say I'm a 35-year-old individual out there, married, got a couple of kids. I come to you and I say, hey, I need to start planning for my retirement. Here's my current pool of money. What kinds of buckets are out there and available for people to help them get started on their retirement journey?
Oh, goodness. The buckets are endless, because, some people, they might want like an annuity, like an insurance product. Some people might want, bonds. Some people might want mutual funds. And then there's people that, that we call them our CDers. They just like, having CDs, knowing exactly what they're going to get, after 13 months, 16 months, 2 years, whatever it may be. So the buckets are endless.
Right.
So like it's hard to define like, oh yeah, you should do this bucket, but just diversifying in general, having multiple options and different tax situations also too. So like, oh, we have qualified money, we have non-qualified money, there's different, Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs, when we pull money from those, there's different tax consequences. So that's a big thing when, you come up to us, because we're on retainer. You call and say, well, I want a boat. So how are we going to go about this?
Right.
Are we financing? What are the finance rates? Are we just going to pay it off in a year, over 2 tax years? And then we debate. And at the end of the day, it is ultimately your decision. We're just here advising you on, the best interest for different repercussions moving forward with your income plan, your tax consequences, So there's a lot to think about rather than, oh, I just bought one. That's a call we don't like.
Right.
I just bought this. What are we going to do?
Better to be proactive than reactive.
Yes. I mean, just asking questions, is huge. And we want to be transparent with each other. At the end of the day, it's ultimately your decision. We're just advisors. But at the same time, I would like if you could, take advice, or just, even with a grain of salt, just knowing, our opinion. But at the end of the day, it is ultimately your decision. And then we have to restructure, your income plan accordingly. But things pop up, whether it's weddings, whether it's funerals, whether it's, and that's where, we just keep meeting with you and keep updating it. And that's basically our technology. What does it? It does a lot for us with the algorithms. But yeah, it's just, your debt to income ratio, like getting credit cards paid off, your high interest debt is huge. And so like, yes, we don't have to have our house paid off when we retire. I know it's an ultimate goal.
Right.
but it's probably at a pretty low interest rate right now. Maybe it's not. Maybe then we should attack that. So just having a strategy is huge, and having someone to confide in and be like, well, what do you think about this? So it's just really hard when someone just comes and says, well, I just want you to manage this account over here. And it's like, well, how should we manage it if we don't know everything else?
Right.
So
if the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing, it could be hard to dribble a basketball.
Yep. And
Bad analogy, but run with it.
I know. I always use the doctor one. My arm,
there you go.
my arm's broken, but I don't want to x-ray. Can you fix it? And it's like, well, we don't know if it's broken. Mm-hmm. We don't know if it needs surgery. And that's why, digging deep into things, and just, monitoring the situation every 6 months. I mean, it's huge. And sometimes clients want to meet every 3 months, and that's fine. So, but yes, met with most of the people for our fall surge along with the enrollment period. So it's been a fun time.
Right.
And then we'll start back up with our early spring, some people meet early in the year, to get a game plan moving into 25.
I imagine when it comes to, you talk about like the boat people, like, hey, I bought a boat. I know for myself, if I have a long enough span of time where I don't have something to do, so I'm on vacation, whatever, I have nothing to do around the house, inevitably it's let's go out and do stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I will find myself at places that maybe sell boats, sell ATVs, UTVs, whatever, toys that I think I want. And those are usually the moments where I'm standing there looking at one of those things I want, where I do, not instead of calling an advisor, I call my wife and be like, thinking of buying a boat. How much time leeway-wise do you need if somebody calls you and says, hey, I'm standing here looking at a 22-foot tracker boat, bass boat, I really want it, thinking about buying a boat. Does it take for you to say, well, let me look at your information and tell you what we can do? Is this something where you're like, stand there for a week, I'll get back to you? Or
No. I've had people at the car dealership,
okay,
and stuff, and we look it up and, what's the best option for it. But mainly it's the financing. Like a lot of manufacturers have lower interest rate or 0% financing for 24 months, stuff like that, where it's like, well, why don't we take advantage of that so we can kind of spread it out over certain tax years?
Right.
So we're not using all our emergency funds or checking and savings, or we're not surrendering a CD, and then we're losing money essentially from it. And it's like, well, why did we do that?
Right.
And these are questions we ask. Like, liquidity is huge when it comes to retirement. We want access to our funds. So we don't want to just tie it all up, oh yeah, it's going to make money, but it's like, no. But some people are that way.
Right.
And then do you have a pension? Are you still working part-time? So these are all, that's why it's really hard to be like, everyone should do this. My job would be much easier.
Right. If everything was cookie cutter, it would definitely be easier. And I think we spend so much of our lives, like now, I still consider myself young, 41, that I still think about things in the sense of, oh, well, I can finance this for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever. And it's way out there. Mm-hmm. So it's okay if I carry this debt for a while. It's fine. Mm-hmm. But many people, my parents are great examples, they got to retirement age, and my dad immediately said, I'm retired. I shouldn't be thinking about this bill that I got to pay every month for the next 3 years, 4 years till the house is paid off. So I'm just going to pay it all off now. Realistically, it probably would have been smarter to just keep paying that for the next 2 or 3 years.
Potentially,
Right.
and it all depends. If they didn't raise a tax bracket, maybe, sometimes the Band-Aid approach isn't better, because do you think taxes are going to go down in the future?
Of course not.
Yeah. So, that's where we weigh the options out, but once again, at the end of the day, it's your decision. We're going to make it work. But as long as that debt is part of your income plan, it's that peace of mind. Okay, we're fine. We bumped up your sweep, your monthly bank withdrawal. And it's like, oh, well, I'm just getting more now, so I don't notice it as much.
Right. Well, and as you were saying, it might be a good idea to take advantage of those low interest options, no payment options, things of the sort, especially because we think about it and we go, well, why would I take on debt to get this boat when I have plenty of money in the bank? I got plenty of money in my retirement. I can just grab it. I have the cash, so to speak.
Yep, and
because we don't think of it as the repercussions.
That's so true. But then it's all of a sudden taxes. Because that's how we've grown up, right? Like,
taxes.
I have $100 in my wallet, and I'm going to buy something for $80. I have the money. Mm-hmm. Well, it's like, well, now you only have $20 left. So right. What are you going to do the rest of the week? And it's just little things like that where we just kind of break it down and simplify it, because we want you on the same plan with us. We want you to understand, the strategies, what we're talking about, and our goal is to educate you and not just talk over your head. Different algorithms, ratios, and stuff, and Monte Carlo systems, and people are like, yeah, sure, whatever you say. And no, we want you. We will stress test your portfolios, but at the same time, we want to make sure that you understand what's going on. And a lot of people have said that they went places and they're like, I didn't understand a word they said. And I'm guilty of it too. Like sometimes when I talk to the accountant, I'm like, whoa, so everything's good. Because it's just something that we don't know, but at the same time, we're going to give it every opportunity to educate you and have, different situations pop up and tell you why we're doing this, why it makes sense. And you're ultimately approving it.
It does make a lot of sense. Do you want to remind everybody, as we are hitting the bottom of the hour, that this is a paid program, and advice and opinions expressed during the program are solely that of Heiar Insurance, not necessarily WBEV or Good Karma Brands. I want to ask you a question about, and this comes up to my mind every time after the show, usually like an hour after the show, I go, I should ask you about this. I still have many friends who live in Vegas, work in Vegas, and they're constantly seeing retirees come out there, and they hit it big on a slot machine, or they hit it big elsewhere, or whatever, and they go to the cage and they start asking questions. Well, I won $20,000. Why are you making me sign this paperwork? What do you mean taxes? What do you mean this? Like, I was gambling. It's free money. Whatever. And I'm hoping you have some advice for people who might be thinking about taking a trip someplace, maybe a riverboat, maybe a big city of lights in Nevada.
Yes, obviously a lot of people gamble, but Uncle Sam's going to get his if you win, regardless. They call it like a hand pay, where basically that's where they stop. They give you the money, but you have to give them your tax information. So you're not hiding. You can't just run out with $20,000. They will find you. But yeah, and that's a huge thing. You want to pay those taxes right away. Your accountant will not be happy if you report, all this. And that's another accounting thing, where because people can write off their losses also,
right?
So how they balance out. But my best advice is don't gamble, because if you want, a certain amount to gamble, and people do, like my grandma-in-law, I guess you would say it, she goes once a month to the casino, and she has her, I don't know how the amount she has, but, and if she spends it, she's done. If not, she keeps playing. So she could be there for an hour or 4 hours.
Right.
And it's just something that makes her happy. And who am I to say, nope, you can't do that. It's a waste of money. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but they build pretty large casinos for a reason.
Right.
So usually they're going to win.
Yeah. You really have to not know what you're doing to make a casino fail, because they just make money hand over fist.
And that's just my opinion on gambling, because I've never had a hand pay. I've never had someone say like, here is like, I hear people all the time, I won $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, and it's like, wow, but what did they spend?
Right. I've been lucky a couple of times, and I've seen a few people really luck out. Spending 5 years in Vegas, you see it happen. I've seen a lot more people not luck out. So we're on the same boat.
I was going to say, that reminds me of Clark Griswold almost.
Yeah, yeah. And it really can be as easy as like, you see that one lucky stiff over there? There's 20 others who are crying right now because they're now out of all the money they had, and maybe a little more.
Well, and it's almost, they set you up for failure. We do a golf trip with a bunch of guys, every summer, and I went to the ATM, to take out my $50 and lose it quick, and you could take out these ridiculous sums of money.
Yeah, their ATMs are absolutely stocked. The cages will give you ungodly amounts of money.
That's not, I don't feel like that's right, because it's, like people will do that.
Yeah.
Especially if you won, they're like, it's going to hit, or, it's, I don't really play the blackjack or anything. I guess they get pretty mad at you.
Yeah.
I tried it once and I like hit, and they're like, the guy's like, why would you do that? And then he's like, you took my 7. And I'm like, oh boy, like, how did you know that was a 7? And so, and then I was always saying, hit me. You have to you have to tap the table. There was way too much going on for me, and I just quit. That was a lot. I went, stuck it in a computer, and just watched the
slot machine doesn't yell at you, and you get to watch lights. So
yeah.
Keeps the ADD brain happy most of the time.
But it's not good for planning for your retirement. Let's not gamble.
Right. Yeah. Let's not. Now, when we just come to retirement planning, and I guess just trying to paint a picture for myself. So I come in, I sit down with you, we're talking through things, And if I give you, here's the grand picture. This is all I've got. This is the grand pool of everything I can pull from. And maybe there's a 401k, maybe there's some other stuff. And then ultimately, are we trying to discuss like what is my monthly need, my monthly want, and how do we achieve that with what I have? Is that kind of what's going on?
Yeah, so we love constants, right?
Right.
So like we know what constants is, like pensions, Social Security,
Right.
So like, and then your spouses. So we take those numbers that are guaranteed, right? And it's like, what is that amount? And say, okay, $4,000, perfect. Okay, and so that's 48 grand a year. What is our income shortage? What do we need? We're like, well, technically, when we were working, we had 6,000. A month. Okay, so we have a $2,000 income shortage.
Right.
How can we, correct that? And the person might be, oh, I'm working part time, making $1,000 a month. Okay, so now we're down to 1,000. And this changes. That's why an income plan is not like, we write it down on a sheet of paper and be like, yep, good luck.
Right.
It changes all the time, and some people, they always take more out than what they need. Initially, because it's the big fear of no checks are coming in.
Right.
What am I going to do? But we're also, like with Social Security, your Social Security is, besides if you don't have taxes taken out, we're not paying Medicare tax, Social Security tax on it and stuff. Also with your employment, like, oh, I'm not having my 401k, taken out of there. I'm not having my health insurance taken out of there. So that's where like budgeting, and it can change. It can change in every month. It doesn't really change every month, but it has. And, but that's why we need the transparency. People are like, we're kind of pinching pennies. Like, maybe we should bump it up. And then we check and see if it's, feasible, or else do we pull it from something else?
Right.
So like there isn't a right or wrong answer, but we love constants. And that's your peace of mind, essentially. So some people are like, we might take a chunk and create a pension out of that.
Right.
So then it's like we've exceeded your goal, and now the other stuff is just emergency funds, vacation funds, and pull when needed.
Well, and I think about like there's constants in our life too that are expenses that we probably are calculating in that won't be there in retirement. If you had to drive 40 minutes to work every day, well, you're not going to be doing that every day anymore. If you always went to lunch and spent $15 at lunch every day, that's $15 you're not spending for lunch every day anymore.
Yeah, but we hear to the drastic amount. Like they had a household income of 80,000. They're like, well, we only need like 40 because we're not driving as much. It's like, well, you're still gonna have bills. You're still gonna do stuff.
Right.
And this is the time. The go years is the best time in retirement. This is when it's like you will travel. You will go visit grandkids. Or your kids. You will go on vacations, and absolutely you should do it because we're not guaranteed tomorrow.
Right.
So that's what we have to debate with Social Security too. Do we? If your Social Security is $2,000 now, but you could get $3,000 at 70, do we wait that long, or because we're gonna have to pull that $2,000 from somewhere,
Right.
Or do we take that and that's less we have to pull from our assets, and we debate that,
Right.
So like, is there a right answer? No, but with Social Security, it's tough because it's based on life expectancy tables. We're not guaranteed tomorrow.
Now I made a note earlier to ask about this.
Oh,
because
here we go.
We said you said go. You brought it up. So there's three categories.
Well, yes.
Kinda.
Yeah.
You've
we
simplified
generalize
it into three.
Yeah, we generalize, yes.
So give me those three categories.
We have the go-go years,
Right.
which is fun time, traveling, doing stuff, early retirement. And then we have the slow go, which, maybe still snowbirding a little bit or slight vacations. And then the no-go. And then the no-go years are obviously, it's obviously much more difficult for us to get around. And then we start focusing and transitioning our retirement planning and principal preservation into like, how do you transfer this wealth?
Right.
What are the tax consequences?
More that legacy planning.
Absolutely.
Stuff. Right.
Turns a legacy, but during the go-go years, estate planning is huge. That's why we have Rob there, Rob Mielik,
Right.
our lawyer. But he helps with the wills and trusts, because that's a huge thing. And that's the go-go years, because we're not guaranteed tomorrow. So like, we always want to know what your wishes are, who your beneficiaries are, who's your power of attorney for health, for financial. And these are all very important things because unexpected things do happen.
Right.
And that's where if we've planned for it, we're good. It's still a terrible time, but that's the last thing you want to be worried about, is income, or what if this happens, or where does this money go? And, and that's where people tend to come out of the woodwork. or they're wondering what they get. And that's really difficult. And there's families to this day that still do not talk because of it.
I know a few myself. Yep.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I know for me, from an outside observer looking in, I look at my parents and they're in their go-go years now. They've got their RV, they go traveling, whatever. It actually makes me smile if I drive past their house and the RV's gone, because I know they're off on an adventure doing something and enjoying this time that they've both earned.
Yeah.
Which is great. I do know that eventually they're going to reach a point where, health is going to be an issue, whatever. They're going to need to focus in on settling more down and making decisions along those lines. And, I hope to be there to help them with that, however they need to. But it's something where, I'm seeing it from an outside observer. I imagine from the inside, you may not always know when it's time for you to take that go-go to a slow go. Because sometimes we get stubborn. And that's where having an advisor who can kind of help advise with stuff like that. Because you might say to yourself, oh, I want to go for 15 years because I know I'm going to be going strong. And then I'll plan 10 years of slow. And you're like, whoa. How about you just, don't anticipate 15 when it might not be 15. It could be 20. It could be 5.
Absolutely. I mean, we have, there's no ages with it.
Right.
It's basically, lifestyle. How life is presenting to us. That's because, I still have people. They're in their go-go years and in their 80s.
Right.
They're still traveling. They're still doing stuff, and because their health is letting them do that.
Right.
And their financial commitments to what they did, and their savings is letting them do that. So absolutely, there is no like from 50 to 60. Is that no? It's not that, because people are working longer. So your early retirement might start later for some people. And then some people with like pensions, they could retire in their 50s. So there is no textbook cookie cutter, but that's why this is so much fun. So like first appointment, like we were talking about.
Right.
Talking about family, kids, job, how long you plan on working, assets, debt, and it's like people are like, why do they need to know all this? And it's like, we're not prying into your life. We like to know like your relationships with your kids, and your family. And second marriages is another thing too, where I have my kids, they have their kids.
Right. Hadn't even thought about that, but yeah.
Yes, and it makes it a little bit more unique, but at the same time, is everyone's on the same page, transparency, even with your families. Just because you have a trust, if you don't tell your family, like, oh yeah, by the way, this kid's not getting anything, that's pretty crucial information that might, come about once they find out if something happens.
Right. You could be the leading cause of why families aren't talking after you're gone.
Yes, so that's why, we want everyone on the same page, and we want beneficiaries for everything. That's how we avoid probate, basically. And we want contingent beneficiaries, because typically like, oh yeah, like my 401k is, my wife is my beneficiary.
Right.
What if we pass away in a car accident? It's like there's no contingent beneficiary. My children are minors,
Right.
so they can't get it. It would go to probate. And we do not want that, So contingent beneficiaries, they're there for a reason. Everyone always says, oh, I have a beneficiary. Bank accounts. Bank accounts is the same thing. We want to make sure there's a secondary beneficiary on there. And hopefully we don't have to worry about that.
Right.
But at the same time, just like we said when we were younger, I want to pass away in my sleep, right?
Right.
At a very, very old age. But things do happen, and that's where, as long as, and I feel like you feel more comfortable doing stuff and traveling and knowing that everything's taken care of. So like, yes, we want your kids to have, our number.
Right.
To call us. Absolutely. Or Rob, and but planning is huge, and you can never do too much of it. That sounds really cliche, but it's so true, especially when it comes to this, the estate planning and retirement planning. So that's why the job's so fun though, because, some people are like, no, we don't really travel. We just, go camping, about 20 minutes here. We have a permanent campsite. Okay. That's their retirement. Right. Some people want to be world travelers.
Right.
But that's why it's so cool, because I get to like live vicariously through you almost.
I mean, that is kind of cool. And I mean, it's interesting to me how much there's a dichotomy to what you do, because there's some stuff that's very regulated, like enrollment periods are from this to this. Mm-hmm. The rules and taxes are from this dollar amount to this dollar amount is this much tax bracket. Mm-hmm. This to this is this. Very cut and dry, very regulated. But then on the other side of things, there's so many variables. Well, how much did you put away? How much do you want to save? How much do you want to spend? What kind of a lifestyle do you want to live? Where do you want to go? Are you Gonna be happy just pulling up to Beaver Dam Lake with your fishing boat every day, and that's all you're gonna do, and that's enough? Or do you need to take something out on the open sea and go fishing for something different? Like, what do you need? We talk about fishing a lot for some reason.
I
But you
know.
get the idea. But yeah, so I mean, there is a lot of variable on that side, and you got to find a balance between those things.
Yeah, and who am I to say that's wrong if you're just gonna go fishing every day? What
Right.
that's the coolest part is, you get to pick, this is why we work, this is why we save, this is why we're planning, is to do exactly what you want to do. I always ask, are you gonna have an alarm clock? Because people when they're retirement, we always have our alarms, right?
Right?
But when we're not retired, is the alarm clock gone? Do we throw it away? I don't even have an alarm clock. I have a phone.
Right. Same.
but but people still do, but that's why, yeah, there isn't a right or wrong answer to this. It's just that's why we're on retainer. You're calling us and asking us questions. But the one kicker is, so since I do Medicare and I also do investments and stuff,
Right.
we can't have an appointment for all of it.
Right.
So some people are like, yeah, I want to know all the services you offer, and it's like we gotta define them for the regulators. That, like, if we're talking about Medicare, that's what the appointment's for. You could have an appointment the next day for finances,
Right.
but we have to separate those because those are two separate entities, and we don't have enough time. I mean, that's a long time to try to teach you
Right.
Medicare, health insurance, or, the Affordable Care Act, and then all of a sudden, okay, well, let's talk about finances now. So
Right.
they do have to be separated. So when you do set appointments, when people mention like retirement info, well, that could be a lot of things. That could be retirement info just for your health insurance, just for Social Security, or it could be like, yeah, I'm retiring and I have this 401k and I have this and I need health insurance, and that's a lot. But we just have to break it up for the regulators.
Right.
So if you do call and set an appointment up, just clarifying what you want to talk about, that's just great, because it just helps us prep, because we prep for these appointments in different ways. So we just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page even before we meet.
Now, you mentioned some of the questions you ask people about, their plans for retirement, and it occurred to me I've never asked. So, what do you want to do after you retire? Do you have a goal, a mindset?
I would. So, like, I always get jealous of a lot of my clients that they're like, yep, just got off the golf course. I'm like, what? And they're like, yep, golf every morning at 8 a.m. because that's morning golf is just great. That's when the dew's on the grass,
yeah.
and it's just quiet and there's not a lot of people on the course.
It's not too hot if it's going to be a hot day.
Yes, it just sounds really appealing. And then, times like this, maybe after the holidays though, you're kind of sick of the cold weather. I'd at least I wouldn't want to stay somewhere for like a month or two. That's too long for me.
Right.
I think I would like to, just go on just somewhere warm for like a week or two, just to break up that winter.
There you go.
But yeah, I mean, and that's why it could change next year though, my thoughts.
Right.
That's the coolest part about retirement. There isn't a right answer. We could have a health scare and we have to completely switch things.
Right.
And that's why we have to keep seeing you. We have to keep, and you have to keep telling us what's going on. Having that transparency, just we're here to help. And this is your money and your decisions at the end of the day, but that's why you hire us, essentially.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question that, and this is coming from somebody that I talked to about being able to do this show and talk with you, and I think I quashed their fears, but I know there could be people out there that have the same fear.
Okay.
Obviously, if I come into you and I talk to you and I say, all right, Matt Heiar, I want to talk about my retirement plan and how I'm going to pay for things after I retire. Here's my pool of money. Here's the investments I can make. Here's what I've got. And here's all my dreams. Here's all my debts. Here's everything. You got all that information. That stays with you.
Absolutely.
You're not going to go to the grocery store locally. You're not going to run into somebody and be like, I was talking with Ninja. Did you know this guy's got X amount of money sitting in the bank? Like, I had no clue.
That is a great way to lose your license.
Okay.
And then you will never be doing it again.
And that was his big fears. He's like, well, they're just going to talk about everything you tell them when they see their, their best friend at the golf course, or they see so-and-so at the bar. They're just going to be like, yeah, I talked to so-and-so. You wouldn't believe whatever.
Nope.
But no, this is between you. This is a true advisement situation where there is some confidentiality.
Oh, absolutely. And same with on the health side too. I can't disclose any private health information. I would lose my insurance license.
Right.
So just like talking about finances, I could not tell anyone. If I do and it's reported, yeah, I probably won't be doing it anymore. So that's why absolutely the regulation is huge. So like every time you call, we have to report that. Why did you call? What was it for? What was said? Because yes, there is a lot of liability with this, and and just checks and balances are huge when it comes to this because this is very sensitive stuff, and people don't like laying stuff out on the table, but that's how we diagnose, and we move forward and create plans by just pure honesty, but absolutely not. And there's a bunch of people that they have advisors in other cities,
Right.
because they feel more comfortable that way, but at the same time, you're going to be talking to this advisor quite a bit. And if you're fine with driving an ROA, I can't say you're wrong by that either.
Right.
But just having someone local is, just huge because, you could see them once a week. You call them and they're going to pick up, and it's them, the same person, not a 1-800 number or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we have the do-it-yourselfers too that just keep their money with their, 401k company, and they're fine with it. But to me, it's like, what if you have a question? They're not going to answer anything, beyond like tax consequences or whatnot. And that's why we have our team. We have our product guys, we have our estate guys, we have our investment guy, and then we have our planners, and CFPs helping out. So like we have our different strategies, and we will get the answer. I can't answer every question,
Right.
but I will get you that answer. And I will call you back. And that's a lot of times I hear they're like, well, yeah, I wasn't getting answers, or I wasn't getting calls back, and that's not right.
Right.
But you do not have to pay us. That's what people always like, well, I would come in, but how much is it? And we do not charge. Like that's where we get paid on the investments. So like when you make more, we make more. That's just the way it is. So yes, we want you to obviously succeed also.
Right.
But yeah, that's why the consultation is complimentary. There's no charges. And I think that's what deters a lot of people too. They're like, well, I just didn't know if I had enough money to even, talk to an advisor.
Right.
That you hear that a lot. And it's like, no, like any money is money. That's your nest egg. It's not your neighbors. It's not your parents. So that's why a lot of people are shy about that. Also, including with your question about, like, well, I don't want it spread all over town.
Right.
I've never heard of situations, throughout the years that I've been doing it where people have said things. It's almost like, because then where does that start? Where does that stop? Like, what about doctors, psychologists? They're not going around town
Right.
just because in your community, because there is a huge consequence if that happens.
Well, and let's be honest, doctors, lawyers, advisors when it comes to retirement and Medicare, you have to live somewhere too. You have to be able to talk to people too. You have to be able to grocery shop too. We can't keep you all in a separate bubble. So it's good to know that all that information is confidential.
Absolutely.
And that, it is really with the best interest of your clients.
Absolutely. Your best interest is my best interest also. So that's why we live in a small town.
We do.
So Dodge County isn't, huge or anything like that. So it doesn't take long, don't go there. They're pushy, or they're just trying to sell me something. And it's like, no, we're here to help. If that's why all you got to do is give us a call at 920-887-0580.
And we are reaching the end of the show, so I'm glad you threw the number out there. Of course, people can also come find you guys over at the Heritage Shopping Mall over there. You guys have an office by the Joann's, and you're on the other side of the Joann's, not the shoe side of Joann's, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We're on the west side of Joann's. Yeah.
Because we're all pulling out our compasses over there at the mall.
If you're looking at Joann's on the right-hand side.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Close at 5 tonight, but obviously you guys normally are, what are your normal hours as far as the office?
9 to 5.
9 to 5.
And then we're closed over the lunch hour from 12 to 1. Not really recently, but
right.
We are in the final stretch, and it's I've been smiling all day.
So you seem to be in a pretty good mood. I think the end's in sight. We know it is.
Yes, it is.
That's awesome. Well, I probably won't talk to you much more before the holiday, so I'm going to wish you happy holiday shopping, because I know that's in your future.
Yay.
And I know we'll be talking right before the holiday. So until then, Matt, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing all this information with everybody today.
Yes, I'll see everyone at the parade tomorrow.
Awesome. This has been a paid program. The advice and opinions expressed during the program are solely that of Heiar Insurance, not necessarily WBEV or Good Karma Brands.